Hey guys, what's going on? It is your boy Christian Israel, and you are tuning in to the New Creation Capital Podcast. Today is April 1st, 2020. Happy April Fool's Day, if some of you guys believe in that. Obviously, our world is no joke right now. But if you got a fun April Fool's joke out there while you guys are on lockdown or quarantine, wherever you are around the world, shoot it in to me at New Creation Capital Podcast or on our Twitter at New Creation Cap. Remember, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Anchor, Spotify, and 6 other different platforms, including YouTube, where we just kind of make the audio, put some pictures in the background, not really doing too much of a dive in visually on YouTube, but we are posting it on YouTube. Our YouTube is New Creation Capital, easy to find. Yesterday, you heard Chris Larsen speak at the FinTech Festival as well, talking about the Internet of Value and kind of his idea and concept. Today we're going to dive into an actual Ripple document called Transforming Global Payments, Enabling the Internet of Value. The goal is to see what Ripple wants to accomplish. I know we heard Chris Larsen dive into it, but now we're going to actually look at their vision. But before we dive into today's story, let's look at some of the news that's going on, because something interesting is happening in the cryptocurrency market. On theblockcrypto.com, an article was published as breaking news, and it's titled, Binance is set to acquire CoinMarketCap. The deal could be worth as much as $400 million. And basically, they're in the Binance is in the final talks to acquire CoinMarketCap, which is what we go on every single day to see, what's going on in the basis. Now, I don't know what your thought process on it is, but I see this as a conflict of interest, right? Because Binance has their own coin and they deal in exchanges and money, and we all know Binance and BitMEX, there's some issue with these exchanges. So I just want you guys to know that I've put this article in the description, theblockcrypto.com, so you can see what is going on and read it for yourself. In the meantime, before we also dive in, I'm going to now go on CoinPaprika.com, because I no longer trust CoinMarketCap based on that acquireship. Now we know that a massive exchange is running it, just to see what's going on in the marketplace. So at the time of this recording, we have Bitcoin is down for the hour 0.16%, but up over 24 hours at 1% and down over 3% over the last 7 days, sitting at 64.37. Ethereum is down over the last 7 days of 3.14%, sitting directly at 132.48. XRP is sitting at 17.5 cents right now. It's up today 0.17 cents, up over the last 24 hours of 1%, and up over 7 days at 9.16%. So we got some movement going on there in the top 3 currencies. The S&PY down 0.56%. We've got the NASDAQ up 0.03%, and the Dow Jones down 0.52%, sitting at 22,214. The DXY, the dollar, is up 0.1%, sitting at $99. That's kind of what's going on at the start of this. I'll also recap at the end of this recording to let you know where we are currently in the market. Till then, thank you guys for listening in. Couldn't do it without you. Remember, this is the new you, a new future, and a new creation. Let's jump right into today's story, guys.
Maybe the last thing I want to ask you is to sum up. So we have a group of here, we're early in the conference. People are going to be deluged with thoughts and information and ideas. If you wanted the people in the audience to remember one thing from this session that you hope they'll take back and put to use, what would that be?
Well, the biggest thing we think is super exciting that we're on the cusp of an Internet of Value. So that's going to play out in a way that's very good for all of us.
So that was just a clip from Chris Larsen from yesterday's podcast. And we talked about that, and he said the one thing that he wants for us to take out is that they want to basically be the Internet of Value. So today's episode, we're going to dive into what the Internet of Value is. So I found this document online that is actually produced by Ripple from November 13th, 2018, and a presentation called Ripple Transforming Global Payments, Enabling the Internet of Value. Now we're going to kind of go over that today. We're going to break it down And I'm just going to walk you guys through this document, because when you hear the internet of value, we know the internet is limitless. It goes to people, to people, to people. And we hear the World Wide Web stands for, information. The internet of information, the internet of the information age. And so the internet of value, I think value is money. So how to move the money, how to transform global payments. That's kind of their thing. So when we look down, it says here that their vision is the internet of value to enable the world to move money like information moves today. So that is their goal and their vision, is to enable the world to move money like information moves today. So for instance, the way you're playing this, I can upload it, hit send, and gone. You can send me a tweet at @NewCreationCap and I instantly get it. A text message, an email, a web page, whatever it may be. Information moves so quickly today, why not move the money? So that's their goal, is to move money the way information moves. And it says next, it says the overview of Ripple's solutions. Ripple offers two software solutions. They have Xcurrent and Xrapid, which says both are live at the time of this. Oh, and they also have Xcurrent. So that's three things here. Xcurrent is connectivity solution. This thing coordinates transactions across the ledgers, and it moves back and forth in real-time settlements. You have Xrapid, which solves the liquidity, right? You always hear liquidity, quantitative easing. Liquidity is just for the banks to move the money. It also says leverage a digital asset for reach to new quarters. So that's moving money to places where people don't have banks. Banking the unbanked. That's a big thing you'll hear throughout Ripple's progress. Is banking the unbanked. And also it says enables global reach without pre-funding overseas. So if you don't know the way banks work, they have to hold a reserve. And in order to move money, it's just a bunch of IOUs. So when you make a transaction, you have your bank telling the other bank to tell the store that I owe you, the money's there, we'll move it, and eventually it takes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Well, using Xrapid is supposed to not be IOUs. It's supposed to be, when I send you the money, you have it. There's no waiting period. There's no pending in your bank account. And then Xcurrent is connectivity solution, coordinates transactions across ledgers, and it's also apparently is bi-directional messaging and real-time settlement. So that's another way to move money directly and immediately. And so they talk about the actual problems in this presentation where we've talked about it, where one-way messaging unlinked from settlement instruction, which means when you move from one bank to one thing is one step. So bank to whatever it may be is a step. So from where you're sending it to that person's bank is another step, and then that person's bank to that person. So for me, from my bank to my phone, to someone else's bank, to someone else's bank, to someone else's phone. That's kind of how that moves, and normally it takes 2 to 4 days, and sometimes you don't know how long. I remember I was trying to make an e-check payment through, what did I have to use? PayPal? Yes, I was using PayPal to do an online check when I was paying for my business stuff. And I thought it would be immediately, but we could both see it pending, but it literally took 10 days to clear. They didn't even take the money out of my bank account. It was just IOU sitting there for 4 days, and then eventually it took the money out of my account. Then it sat there on PayPal for 3 or 4 days, and then they eventually got it. That's a long time, and we had to wait. They wouldn't do anything until they received the real-time payment. And that took forever. If I was able to use XRP, basically, and this is their case, they say it just goes from bank to them immediately. Literally, instead of doing 2 to 4 days, it's immediate. It's transparency. You can track it. You can see it. And it's low cost. I think it cost me like $25 to make that payment. So they actually charge me to spend my own money. And if all you know that's kind of a waste of time today and a waste of money. A lot of people don't want to, you literally, they hear that thing, you got to spend money to make money. Well, now I got to spend money to spend money. I think that's crazy. And so Ripple is not worried about speculation on their coin or speculation on XRP. They're actually trying to solve a real-time payment. Money makes the world go around is what you hear people say. Banks make the world go around, and we do our commerce and our spending and our transactions through online or in-person cash or whatever it may be. But unless I'm handing cash directly to that person, everything's an IOU. I mean, I don't know how many people out there have ever had an overdraft fee, right? You heard HSBC or Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, US Bank. They all have these overdraft fees, right? Where the way they do it, and I don't know, when I was in college, this happened to me a lot, really bad with money back then. I never went to school. When I went to school, they didn't teach you how to invest, how to manage money, how to do your bank accounts. They never taught you the things that you need to actually be in the real world. They taught you, the circumference of a circle, right? Or the quadratic formula. All these things that no one really uses today. I mean, even if you're in finance, you still weren't using the circumference of a circle. You learn those things in working to get your Series 7 license or something. But why did you learn that in school? Anyway, different rant, another time. But, if you say you had $500 in your bank account, you wrote a check for $245. At the time, you didn't know if it went through, but then you went and charged your card or spent card on gas, groceries, some other things. And every time you looked, it looked like you had the money in the bank. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, look, I got $10 left. Okay, I don't spend it. I'm still waiting. Then all of a sudden, everything came through at the same time. Everything. So if I had a balance, and it took sometimes 2-3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, all money is coming through, but they took the biggest thing out. Say they took the rent check out first, which put my account really low, and I'm thinking you had the money. They continue to withdraw those little things. And then every transaction that went, once you had a zero balance, would charge you $35. So for instance, if I had $5 left, but I had 4 transactions where one was $7, $2, $3.50, they take the $7 out first, and now I've got a negative $2 account. They charge me $35 for the negative 2. And then they take out the $5, the $3, and the $2, 4 other separate transactions, charging me $35 a piece. So because I went overdrafted by maybe $10, I end up overall getting charged $200 in overdraft fees. And anybody who has ever had overdraft fees with the banks knows that's the most annoying thing possible when it comes to the banks, because why would you, one, let the payment go through and then charge me if I don't have money in my bank account anyway? Why are you charging me more money? If I couldn't afford $5, how can I afford $200? Right? And then they continue to charge you every single time, every day that overcharge is due. Because the banks, again, are built to make money off of you. Well, they do that because they don't have the reserve, and they just basically loan out your money, and the banks work to have debt. If you are in debt, the banks are working. Now, I'm not saying Ripple's there to make off the debt, but Ripple's there to kind of help prevent that peer-to-peer because it's immediate. You will know exactly what's taken out of your bank, how quick it goes, and they can't do that 4, 5, 6, 7 day period anymore. Instead, it's immediate, which is really, really nice. So for those college kids that listen to this, or the people who are basically living paycheck to paycheck, when you spend the money's gone, and you know it's gone, and you're not worried about, did something go through, did a payment go through? That was the most stressful time, waiting for other payments to go through. Again, this was like, 10, 15 years ago, but still, I remember it like it's yesterday. It's just insane. Anyway, let's move back. So we just talked about basically they're solving that problem of payments taking forever. Again, for instance, I have a Verizon bill, and we're waiting for them to make the payment go through. We got to see if it's instant. I get an instant text message from US Bank that says a transaction happened, but the account is still pending. It hasn't actually been withdrawn yet, which is no. So the way they want to do, they have this thing called RippleNet, which specializes for interbank payments, okay? So the point of the RippleNet is to network of financial institutions all on one ledger, where the banks hold their own ledger. And what a ledger is basically like their record books, right? So they all have their own record books, but then they all are interconnected. So the banks have their own, but at the same time, we can see everything. So, if there was a ledger, there was a quote that if Wells Fargo had used the blockchain ledger, there was no way that they could have defrauded everybody out of their millions of dollars of overdraft fees, which we just talked about, and all the fake accounts that Wells Fargo just had. I think they just paid, $3 million or $3 billion, one of the two. I know it's a big difference, but they just paid a big fine for basically ripping off customers for years, and apparently that was just okay. That Wells Fargo could just rip off customers and charge customers for legal fees and overdraft fees when they never had any. Well, RippleNet solves that problem because it puts all the banks on the ledger and it holds them accountable so everything can be seen. Not only is the bank payments quicker, but now we see interbank payments. So banks are moving money faster and we see everything, okay? Now, Ripple has an advisory board and they go by a rule book, okay? They have the governance advisory board and they've developed a commercial framework with the set of rules and standards. Now, check this. Here's some of the members of that advisory board according to their official Ripple document. They have the Standard Charter, Westpac, Santander, Bank of America, RBC Bank, and MUFG. So you see those are some of the bigger banks in the business, okay? And then they go back, and I won't go down and break all that down, but you hear some of those are American banks, like Bank of America is partnered with Ripple. So you know that's a big thing. And so they go through different case studies. And the first case study that they show us here is one in Japan, Thailand remittance service, okay? They say from SCB to the SBI remittance service. SIM is the Siam Commercial Bank deployed the solution to offer faster payments while lower internal processing costs. By enhancing the customer experience, SCB was able to increase their volumes and acquire new customers. So they're saying right there, because money was moving faster for cheaper, they were able to increase the amount of money and gain new customers, which is great for banks. Then they go on to Santander, which is a OnePay mobile app here they've seemed to complete. And it says that Santander faced pressure from non-bank competitors taking their share of international payment volumes. OnePay FX is a customer payments application that allows money to be sent from the UK to US into the EU. So other banks right now, as we see PayPal or Venmo or these other things, are moving money much faster. So the banks are getting left behind. So they look at Santander, who wanted to move that. Now, not only do they talk about the case studies, how they're moving money faster, but then they give a snapshot of more Ripple customers, okay? Now, I'm going to read these off to you, and this is kind of crazy because they just mentioned a couple customers like Bank of America, and now we're going to go through some more. So again, we see here a snapshot of their customers, of the Ripple net customers. Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, Standard Chartered, the Bank of Tokyo, MUFG, Westpac, Santander, UBS, American Express, SEB, BMO Bank, SCB, Access Bank, CIBC, AK Bank, and Yes Bank. So those are some pretty big banks, and we know that through later research, and research I've already done and seen on other people's channel, that they're much more connected to that, and we'll go on to dive into who actually owns Ripple in another episode. But right now, we're going to continue to go down this internet of value, see them building and working with it, and they talk about XRapid, which solves the liquidity issue. If you listen to Steve Mnuchin, who is the Secretary of Treasury, or anybody else in the finance industry right now, they're talking about getting liquidity, and Ripple and XRP brand themselves not only as the internet of value, but as on-demand liquidity. And so here's the liquidity solution. It's called XRapid, which leverages a digital asset to enable fast payment reach without pre-funding in the destination country. If XRapid is the liquidity solution and it uses a digital asset to enable fast payment reach without pre-funding in the destination country, that means it goes on to the market cap or the blockchain to use whatever digital asset to move it faster and quicker. All right. So their digital asset in XRapid is XRP, right? That is the digital asset that's going to be used right there. So what they do to move bank to bank, right, with the RippleNet is to do that interledger is to use from, again, the American dollar, okay, the US dollar, to XRP, to the Mexican peso. Done. Period. Right over the ledger versus the US dollar to a bank, to an intermediary, to a bank, to a Mexican dollar, Mexican peso, right? No, this is literally cuts the steps in half, makes it much easier, moves it forward, and it's basically a use case for bridging fiats to solve for liquidity. So again, I'll explain it. It says fiat exchanges for fiat on the XRP. Okay, so I take the US dollar, move it through XRapid or Ripple or XRP, and it goes directly to Mexico, the financial institution. Okay, so from one bank through XRP to another bank, done. And the way it happens is instead of having to do all the intermediary movement again, they're moving literally the dollar to XRP to the Mexican peso. Easy. They're doing it right now. They just moved $52 million in the month of February alone, cross-border intermediate payments. Another way you can do it is if it's peer-to-peer. So that's institution to institution. This is peer-to-peer. They have the U.S. sender, moves it through into Bittrex. We use exchanges or ledgers, and XRP is sent to that person's exchange and then to that person. And it says here the max exposure time is 90 seconds with the total transaction time of 2 minutes. So using XRapid and using XRP as the liquidity source, as their digital asset, the total exposure time of your money out in the open is 2 minutes. XRP for 90 seconds, 2 minutes total transaction time. Now, if you use a bank right now and you transfer money, MoneyGram, Western Union, bank to bank, outside of cash, credit card to store, store to credit card, you're talking 24 hours minimum. This is 2 minutes. That's instant. That's internet of value. That's instant payments, instant information directly to you or to the source that you plan to pay. Now, they obviously have been working with regulators from the beginning. So they say they've been working with the Bank of England, with an accelerator program that says Ripple here selected to inform the next generation of RTGS payments infrastructure, okay? They also have been working with the Federal Reserve for faster payments. Ripple was selected to serve on the steering committee of the Industrial Strategic Initiative. That's right there with the Federal Reserve. Then they've been working with the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority to work with infrastructure, innovation, partnership for financial institutions to leverage Ripple for cross-border payments. And they're working, look at this, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. Ripple was selected to serve on the IMF's high-level advisory group on fintech. Ding, 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 look at that. We just connected in Ripple, the IMF, and fintech, okay? Again, those are the big banks. So why is Ripple in there? And that's with the policy, because they are working with the regulators. To do what? To have global payments, to have national payments, and use digital assets to bridge that currency. And this is basically Ripple's platform for innovation. Central banks and national infrastructures can engage with Ripple to innovate and prove building blocks in distribution ledger technology, okay? DLT, distribution ledger technology. You're going to hear that a lot on this channel, so make sure you hear that again. Distributed ledger technology, okay? To preserve sovereign rights while transacting seamlessly from one to the other. The point is to make it quick. Again, to global payments, national payments, and digital assets. And you'll hear people say, all the money. That's the whole point of them, is to do all the money. They want to control it all. Control it all. One world currency. One world payment system. We'll get into that later, okay? So, the way to do global payments on RippleNet. And again, break it down a little bit more for you. I know there's a lot of information, but just to know the gist of it, you can always go back and replay this to listen to the details again. And I'll put some links in the description below. You have peer-to-peer cross-border payments. That's bank to bank, person to person, across the borders, across the state lines, across your house, across the world. Easiest way to say it. Global payments on the RippleNet all over. Okay? They want to do multi-hop. So if I want to move things from one to one to one to one, I can do that quickly. Like I said the other day, I did from my Coinbase app where I bought XRP, moved it to an MCO card, and then moved it to my ledger all in about 2 minutes or less, I think. I've done it a couple times. And it's quick from 3 different platforms instantly, as fast as I can send a tweet, which is really nice. Now, the way it works on the global payments on RippleNet is that it all moves across all these different, instead of having separate databases, again, all the databases are connected. All the money, all the databases, all the banks, everything is connected. And that's so important to understand here, because in order for this to work, there has to be some connectivity between everything, so nothing gets lost. There has to be some sovereign with interoperability, is what you always hear. Interoperability, where central banks can offer liquidity, there's that word again, liquidity, when constrained via commercial banks. Smaller banks can leverage central banks' reserves to conduct cross-border transactions. Okay, all of this is 24/7 and in real time. There's that word again. Interoperability via the Interledger Protocol can connect existing networks as well. So moving not only from bank to bank, but over different networks. That means the way we do the exchanges, the way if you as a trader or on Kraken or Bybit or BitMEX or Bittrex or any of these other exchanges that you guys use, not only will the banks use that, but the liquidity will move through those exchanges as well, giving a complete exposure time of 90 seconds with a max transaction time of 2 minutes, okay? So the point is, it's faster, it's easier, it's simple, and everyone is on the same page. That is the complete point of how they work, okay? XRP, Ripple, the RippleNet, on-demand liquidity. The point out of this is that you heard them discuss the IMF, right? Again, there's the IMF sticking out again, and it's so important to see that Ripple is working with the regulators. How many other cryptocurrencies are working with the regulators? You heard them say in the interview, if you don't work with the regulators, it's pretty much over for you, right? It's over with for you. Don't work with the regulators, you're not going to survive. Privacy coins, not going to survive, because in a world of no privacy, the government's not going to allow you to. And the only way to expand is to work with the government. Ripple's been working with the government since its inception. Since the beginning, they've been working with them. And I think it's so important to understand that they did not start yesterday. Ripple has been going since May of 2012, I do believe. And again, it was made by Chris Larsen, who created Ripple, as you heard him speak there, and then a guy named Jeb McCaleb, who was kind of the technician behind it, okay? So these guys have been working with the regulators from the beginning, and we'll continue to dive into that. But I wanted you to see that in their own documentation, they are telling you right point blank period in your face that they are working with the IMF, the ultimate regulators. And that's important because we're going to go into a gentleman next episode, and I'm going to play for you a guy named Jim Rickards, who talks about the overall concept and how they're going to put this into it. Now, it might be the next episode, but write that down. Jim Rickards. I'm going to play some information from him, okay? So what do you guys think about this? If you get a chance, Google Ripple, Google XRP. I keep telling you this because this is where it is. Was the digital dollar planned? And the answer is absolutely yes. They've been doing this for the longest time. Bank of America is a customer of theirs again. Merrill Lynch is a customer of theirs. BMO Bank, PNC. I can keep going on, and we will continue to dive into that as we move forward. But again, Ripple is on the IMF's high-level advisory group on FinTech. FinTech is money and banks moving with digital technology. We have talked about it. So do you believe that's the Internet of Value? Do you believe that XRP, Ripple, has created the Internet of Value? Do you believe they have a use case? So let me know what you guys think. Throw your comments in below if you're on YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow. Podcasts on Anchor, you can leave me a message to tune in, and I'll play your voice messages on here. Ask your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them, okay? Also, don't forget to share the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Anchor, Spotify, all those places, and tune in. Let me know. Let's engage and converse in this conversation. There's a whole XRP community out there, army out there that throws a bunch of information. I appreciate you all. I appreciate all you listeners. Please, 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 please tell me what you like. Tell me what you think. Again, all the links are in the description below. And that is the end of the 9th episode. But before I move on, I want to make sure that I make a correction from yesterday's episode. Yesterday's episode, I said that every American, based on the stimulus bill, was going to get $12,000. I meant to say $1,200. And of course, it's my mom, my parents who pointed that out to me. Little slip up. Sorry, guys, for that. I apologize. This is $1,200 per American in that stimulus bill package that passed. And it is April 1st. I hope you guys are having a great, great day. But, okay, again, it's really March 31st. We record this show the day before. But as I told you earlier, that Binance bought CoinMarketCap. And if you go to CoinMarketCap.com right now, you can go to the top 100 cryptocurrencies by market capitalization right there on the front page. And you can see he's already become a comedian because they've created a toilet paper token with the market cap of $85 billion and the price is $1.64. It says circulating supply, out of stock. So they already got a joke going on here, and they're already controlling CoinMarketCap. So I've switched over to Coinpaprika, as also some people use CoinGecko. But, you know, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are going to be on that. But before we close, let's look at the current closings on the day. Oh, by the way, before I do that, they've extended, as you guys already know, have extended now California to the end of April. They've also extended Illinois to the end of April. As far as this lockdown or shelter in place law. So I hope you guys are being safe. I hope you guys are being careful out there. We have yet to flatten the curve. We are still going to move, but at the time of this recording, which is about 4:30 p.m., the stock market is now closed, but let's look at what's going on in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is down 0.14% on the hour. At 24 hours, down 1%. Ethereum's down 0.03%. XRP is still up 1.15% and moving. And so there's a lot of things going to happen. I know the halving is a month and a half away now, so we will see what happens with that. We'll do a show on the halving one day. But for now, Google these things, get into these things, look into these things. This show is just there to ask the questions, and do our best to answer the questions. And the next question we're going to answer or ask is who is Jim Rickards and what role does he play in all this? Now, I'm not saying he plays a role, but what does he have to say about all this? How does he connect all these dots into a one world currency or with the IMF or the elites? And I will play with you an interview from him and some segments moving forward. It won't be the only time we play him, but we will definitely play a part of his interviews throughout because I think he kind of connects the dots in a simple way that we all can see. So before we close out, as always, I'm going to read you some scriptures from the New International Version, and we're going to read Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. Keep it nice and simple, and it goes like this. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So one thing I've always said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's kind of what we're trying to let you know on this podcast is Ripple's out there saying things. The government is out there saying things. And it's not what they're saying, it's how they're saying it. And I think it's important to dig. And again, that's what we're going to do on this show. So thank you guys again for listening. Thank you guys for sharing, subscribing, liking, following, commenting, doing the whole social media thing. I really, really appreciate it. No matter if you're listening in Houston, Texas, or in New York, or in Africa, I really appreciate you guys. Remember, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Anchor, among other things. Like Twitter, which our Twitter handle is @NewCreationCap. Again, please converse with me. Our website will be up shortly. It is finalizing its last touches. It's going to be awesome, where we kind of outline what we do as a company. So thank you guys for listening so much. And remember, buy low, sell high, because this is a new you, a new future, and a new creation. Thanks for listening, guys. As always, peace and love, and until next time.